A very good evening to all of you. It's a matter of grit, determination, patience to stay through the entire conference, entire summit. So all of you who remained sitting in the hall, you deserve a big round of applause. I think we go through several such instances where you have challenge of audience, in the sense lack of audience. That's a big challenge itself. But the discussions were very interesting right from the morning. Even the last discussion on ethics is extremely interesting. We are very happy to associate with this event, with the BW Business World. We have been associating and making sure that we associate and bring forth sessions, conferences and summits which are important for us to open our minds up, and at the end of the conferences we take back some of the important points that we generated here and implement them. So actionable insights is what we always mine for, and we would like to now and in future also look for such opportunities so that we can take home several insights. And today the Power Packed inaugural has been extremely interesting, especially for me personally. The insights were very, very good. I think if we focus on those insights and try and create at least 3 bullet points for us to implement in our own departments, in our own schools and universities, I'm sure we would have done a great bit of contribution to the existing process in our educational institutions, which I am sure all of you will do. Several times in conferences, what happens is there is a competition to speak, but the power and the staying power to listen to those conferences and speeches is much more valuable according to me. I think our ability to sit down and learn has to be given greater priority. We've always been teaching and talking in front of our students back home, right? So here we come and we sit down and listen. I think that format once in a while is important for us. So we sit down, listen, ask questions, gather the takeaways, go back and implement. So therefore, that role we will have to play. Well, our founder once mentioned we were traveling in the US and we were sitting in a major conference. It's called AACSB conference. AACSB conference was being held in Tampa at that time, Florida. So there were a lot of Chinese people who were participating in the conference. They were all moving around. Venue after venue, there are a lot of sub-venues, right? There is parallel tracks going on. This room is one venue for one talk, and parallelly there are several rooms in the whole venue. So I was observing a lot of Chinese people sitting in the front row and making notes. And then I moved to another venue. There also I found almost 20% of them sitting in the front row and writing down something. Over the 2 days and 3 days of the conference, I noticed several Chinese people writing down, but never a Chinese person stood up and spoke. Then we went back for dinner and I was bringing up this observation, and our founder said, that is the Chinese way of learning. We sometimes don't value that. The Chinese way of learning is very, very different, non-visible kind of learning. They are always there. They don't raise any questions. They jot down and they go back and do whatever they have to do. It's their style. But even if you take 80% of that and imbibe some of those skills of listening peacefully, jotting down, mulling it over, and then going back and implementing, I think that will be great. Yes, we should also ask questions. We should also be visible. I think in front of our stakeholders like students, we should be much more visible. Among the dimensions that our people have mentioned in the panel discussions today, for example, ethics. Ethics is something less talked about and more demonstrated. I think as institutions, we should be role models. As institutions, our practices will be seen every day. Whatever notice boards, the notices that you pin up are watched by the students and also the colleagues. And if you don't stick to the notice or the promise that you have made, and it is okay informally within your institution to violate those norms, then slowly it will percolate down to the student, and there's a culture, as ma'am was mentioning, the institutional culture will be thus built in a wrong way. The way we treat our colleagues is also a very important measure. Everyone is observing, apart from the colleagues that we are treating. The students are looking at us. So slowly and steadily and dangerously, we are not becoming role models for our students. That's the biggest concern. The moment there is a mic, we are ready to speak for an hour, nothing less than an hour we speak, right? Nobody can stop us. Whether our time has come or not on this earth, nobody can stop us. Because we are teachers, we get used to talking, and 1 hour 15 minutes is the standard time. If I start, it has to end at 70 minutes or 75 minutes. But more importantly, what we demonstrate in terms of practices, in terms of partiality with the students, evaluation, all those things, we need to very carefully, sensitively look at. Some of the utterances that we make in the class when we crack jokes will have to be very professional. We cannot take it light. We may say anything in a jest and then we go away, but the student is there to look at you and make comments. It's a position of power when we stand at the podium in front of the students. Therefore, it's also a position of responsibility. Much beyond that 75 minutes. We get down, we go to our room, but the student stays with us, or our words stay with the student, and therefore, either we are a role model or we are not a role model, depending on what we say, what we do. So our institutional practices and individual practices together build institutional culture, and therefore ethics has to be more demonstrated rather than preached. Now that is very, very important for us. We are all very busy, all faculty members, teachers, professors, we are busy covering syllabus, covering portions. And therefore there is hardly any room for us to actually do something creative, make peer learning work. We take all the responsibility to complete the syllabus. We don't actually do any innovation in terms of bringing the students and making them part of actually conducting the rest of the process. Only good institutions, good business schools or good universities have a practice of making everything run by the students. The campuses should be run by the students. It belongs to them. 80-95% are them. Most of the teachers are 40 plus and the people they report to are 60 plus. But these 40 plus and 60 plus are actually teaching about 18 plus or 20 plus kind of students in terms of age. So there is a generational divide we need to understand, and we need to play catch up. So the more open we are, the more fostering we are in terms of peer learning, the lesser burdensome it is on us. So that's one way of looking at it, and therefore we will have greater time to analyze and be a facilitator and a role model also. Otherwise, you are doing your laundry job of finishing the portions and all. If we make it hybrid, if we make sure that we don't have to teach everything in the class just like the way we have mentioned in our lesson plan, then we have a lot of room to innovate and bring in the students to actually shoulder some responsibilities. So that's very, very important for us. Now, even-mindedness, balance, and jumping to conclusions is another area where we are largely influenced by technology through social media, for example. Influencing technologies are many. One of them is social media, and this social media will also try to mold your perception about things that are happening around us in terms of sports, in terms of cinema, in terms of politics, in terms of what happens in society, relationships, so on and so forth. And they are much more in the mind space than our prompt engineering and how we work with generative AI. How do we have to harness the power of machine learning, and I will wait. Yeah. I am not Mr. J. Chowdhury. Sir walked out actually when there was a timer. So we need to create more time for us to think and see what kind of value we are adding as heads of institutions and teachers in the classroom. Well, of course, we should stop calling ourselves teachers. Everyone is a learner. We are lifelong learners, and therefore, it is a learner 1 to learner 2. A learner standing here and a learner standing there or sitting there is the kind of construct. So, the principles that we believe in and the practices that we demonstrate take us quite a long way in our journey. And of course, our journey is pretty long. So this generational divide which I am talking about is generally called alpha, Gen Alpha. Am I right? These youngsters are called Gen Alpha. We are what? Boomers. Yeah. So boomers versus zoomers, I think. So this generation Alpha is actually an internet generation. It's also called Gen I. Now, in between something has come. It is called Gen AI, which is not generation, but is generative AI. We are all thoroughly confused. But I'm sure if we opt out of social media, all of us, if we opt out of social media, there will be no role models for the students. The same students will have some of your mobile numbers, and when they go on to the Facebook, there is a prompt saying that you may know these people. Dr. Praveen will be there. I'm just taking your example. But if you don't share your mobile number, you will not be seen on the Facebook prompt, and therefore there is no way of he following you, and there is no question of any being a role model. Collectively, all of us are moving away from the platform of being a role model, which was the primary responsibility for us. And later we come back and blame it on politicians, media, so on and so forth. Whereas we have actually not shouldered that responsibility. We have actually gone away from that primary responsibility. So that's very important for us to do that. Going forward, I want to say only one thing, that is, the entire conference is based on three important parameters. The summit has helped us in taking away that innovation is a very powerful thing and a requirement on a daily basis or a monthly basis for us. We need to innovate the programs that we create for them, or the way we deliver those programs to the students, the way we approach in terms of pedagogical interventions. I think everywhere innovation is required. Incremental or big scale, small or big, everywhere, every type of innovation is required for us in order to make sure that our conduct and our journey is very interesting and value adding. Second is technology. There is no sphere where technology has no role. Technology is all pervading, and it is better that we learn technology and embrace technology so that whatever we have decided to deliver is delivered very effectively and at scale. Several models are available. I think technology is going to power us, as mentioned by Professor B.J. Rao. The power of internet is going to be 100 times much more or 1,000 times much more in the days to come through quantum computing. Therefore, the way we can deliver content at speed is going to be an equalizer, is going to be much more democratic in terms of sharing the content. So technology is something we should love to use and harness knowledge, and thereby become very transformative. And the last point is, and very important point is, entrepreneurial thinking. Whether you work for yourself or work for someone else, having the children bearing entrepreneurial thinking is extremely important. That's the mindset we need to cultivate. And how entrepreneurial thinking will come, and that's very important. Couple of years back, we were in the US and we were in Stanford. And therefore, one of the Stanford professors speaks to you, right? So all of us were sitting, and some of the delegates, we were about 15-16 of us, and one of the members who represented a leading university, which is not very far from this place, has asked a question. What is that you do in Stanford, which we don't do back home in India, that makes Stanford a breeding ground for entrepreneurs? That was a very good question. But the answer lies with us, right? Answer lies with us. Most of our universities, at least some of the universities that I know, they don't pay their teachers very well. Even if they pay, they take half the salary back. There are some practices which are nefarious. We are not thoroughly professional. Our own entrepreneurial conduct is based on cutting corners. Short-term approaches are there. Entrepreneurial approach has to be risk-taking and based on ownership. One needs to move forward no matter what is the result. But if you're always base your actions on ROI and you are thoroughly worried about what could be the outcome, you will never make any other attempt, and you won't allow any other faculty member to take any risk, and therefore you won't allow any other student to take risk, but you want everyone to become an entrepreneur. And as parents and in the society, our parental faith in children about entrepreneurship is pretty low. It is minus. So that is another issue. So I think the solutions have to be found back home with us, in our institutions and at homes and in society. We need to celebrate failures. We need to actually have a mechanism and platform to have that balance of mind, equanimity, and not jumping to conclusions. All these things will result when you have teaching community or institutions moving forward with greater responsibility in every action that they take. So innovation, technology, and entrepreneurial mindset are the three important takeaways for me, and I'm sure the Business World Higher Education Summit has very nicely brought forth these points through several discussions from distinguished members like all of you. I have really enjoyed, and I want to thank each and every one of you by name for participating and making this a big success. Thank you so much, and I also want to thank Preksha, Priya, the anchor, and the members who are sitting in this box. Some of them are sleeping, but it's okay. You will continue to sleep. Thank you so much for providing this support, and thank you, cameraman and your assistant. I wish you all the best and have a nice stay in Hyderabad. There's a lot of traffic jam. Don't be in a rush to go out. Stay here, pack up everything, and leave leisurely. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
It's a way of winding up the entire summit. I'm extremely sorry that I had to take a call in the middle. There's a cabinet at 4:30. So there's some query which has come. As usual, we have to be ready with data whenever somebody asks. And that's one thing which Sudhakar Rao missed. Somebody said ATM. I think I should add my role as ever ready. That you should be able to, in the middle of the night, tell how many universities, what students, how many PhD scholars, what is the funding, what are the problems. So that becomes when faculty become administrators like us. That's this cannot be avoided. I mean, you can understand the priority. I have great pleasure to actually say that this summit was extremely well organized, thanks to the support of ICFAI, primarily NMIMS. I see a lot of good names. And I think this kind of a coming together of all the players in the ecosystem shows the commitment towards improving higher education. I have not come here to make a speech on this, but definitely I came here to assure all of you that the system looks forward to a very healthy level playing field, providing a level playing field for all the players, whether it's a small engineering college to a university, both in public and private, as well as research organizations, etc. Having said that, I think the primary reason why at the State Council we want to associate with such events is that to bring in and foster a cooperative and a collaborative kind of a thing. Today there is no competition, it's all about co-opetition. I can learn better practices, best practices. I can learn and gain and share. Being at in an organization which is like a bridge to the government and the universities per se, or the educational system, I think it becomes our responsibility to feed the government with a proper situational kind of analysis. And it changes every time. 10 years back when Telangana was formed, 2014, I remember, we used to think that what could be the way forward and then and it goes on. See, things sometimes, irrespective of who is there, things will move on. But the players are important, and that is people like us. We should never forget our role, that we should try to learn from each other. Rightly said by Dr. Sudhakar Rao. Because unfortunately what happens when we become islands of excellence, for example, I don't want to say about many institutions which I worked earlier and I also keep in touch now. We become islands of excellence, and when we come down to small institutions, we start pointing out the differences which are not there, things which are not there. Somebody in the morning talked about syllabus. I think nobody should cover the syllabus. They should uncover the syllabus. You should make the student know what he does not know, rather than asking him the same. Today's situation, unfortunately, though I'm also responsible for it, is that predictable teaching, first of all, predictable admission process. You write some examination, and I don't think we need any examinations nowadays. In fact, I am going to move a proposal to scrap some of these examinations, like entrance examinations, because there are no takers. There are few seats, lot of seats and more. So it's a real pressure on the student. In fact, I had also mentioned this to the earlier their education minister. So predictable examination, predictable selection, predictable learning, predictable examination, predictable marks, predictable jobs, and these are not going to be there. So what are we going to do for future? We need to unlock the potential. I think the theme which has been chosen is really good. For example, inspiring and unlocking. And Dr. Sudhakar talked about inspiring. I will talk about unlocking. You find that when we are talking from this point, we find that we are only referring to institutions which have good faculty, good infrastructure, good funding, and good students. Now look at situation where, and good would mean that somebody who can speak good English, communicate effectively, have a balanced mind, have a learning aptitude. All this we want to have. But what about things the other side? I am also the Vice Chancellor of a 9,000 students residential university, which was in the news for bad reasons for a couple of months back. Issue is that somewhere down the line we forget about our commitment towards these bright minds, either because we are fully focused on these so-called good institutions, or we follow the same models which have been followed. So when I went there 16 months back, I found that the students are extremely bright, come from very impoverished backgrounds, but they need support. And the first thing I took it up with the government, and fortunately the government was very kind enough, is look at things which can improve the student to perform better. Things would mean computing facilities, things would mean better hygiene in the hostels, which would also mean better care to be taken of the faculty. Many times we forget, as managements, as governments, we forget that the key players are the faculty, are the deans. Sometimes we assume that the teacher faculty should do their roles, and that's as per the SOP. But they have to do roles which are not as per the SOP also. For example, they have to mentor, they have to look after, they have to keep looking at the trends, learning outcomes, learning abilities, and then, interventions which have to be done. And very few of us give the faculty an opportunity to express and talk something out of the box, because everybody wants to be conformist. But if you want to change organization, in fact, mine is a classic case. Dr. Sudhakar was talking about case studies in ICFAI. I would welcome you to write a case study on our own university. 9,000 students, completely residential, and we had to turn it around into a very peaceful, very, happening campus. And to a large extent, we have succeeded. I learned it. In fact, I never worked with an institution like this. I have always worked in institutions where I did not have much contact with the students, but I had to do micromanagement. For example, the sanitation issues, the security issues, the kitchen, the hospital, hostel. So I had a great innings. I still continue to be there. But the point I'm trying to say is that when you apply the same formula, or you wear the same lens to solve every problem, it will not be. You will have to be highly adaptive, you will have to be highly flexible, and you will have to sometimes be unconventional. If I have been taught a certain way of doing things and I want to do it, it won't work. And sometimes we as academicians also expect that somebody else should do. There were instances when I had to take up things which I would never have taken up in my life. For example, there are a lot of things. I don't want to mention them now because it's all history. But had I not done that kind of a micromanagement or hand-holding to the faculty, convincing them every 3 days, having a meeting, virtual followed by physical visits, surprise visits, calling on government officials, impressing upon them the need, talking to politicians, sometimes disagreeing with them, getting into a wrong side of their thinking. All that happened, but I think at the end of it, the moral of the story I'm trying to say, it's not about me, it's all about good administrators and working with government is very tough. But when you work with them, you find that there's so much the government can do. We all think that sometimes it may be not advisable to work. No, every university, every academic leader should work with the government because there's so much to offer. The government can, if it wants, offer you the entire this thing. For example, the first meeting of the T-Hub was held by me and without any charge. The T-Hub was the hall was given to be free. Because I told Jayesh Ranjan that, look, I'm getting, because the minister was with me and I said, I'm getting 1,000 students to Hyderabad on the rotation. And he said, for you, it's all free because we believe that you are going to be the change agent and bring in more exposure. So many instances like that come to my mind. I see in the audience a lot of experienced people, Professor Sai Baba, are good friends from academia, my own colleagues, some of you students. So I think the summit has lots to offer. And I particularly liked, as Dr. Sudhakar said, all of them committed to come. That's another thing. However busy we are, even these 20, 25 of you take back some of these suggestions, and then it becomes kind of this thing. I think it's very important. Almost I was counting around 15, 20 top academic leaders of the state have come here, apart from other people like Professor Karnakar and other people who are also equally competent, and Lakshman, Professor Lakshman, etc. I can't remember Peter or this thing, Vijay Pal, so Praveen. So that shows that we are all interested, but somebody has to get us together. And that somebody could be Business World, ICFAI, Narsimhoji, or any of these institutions which are trying to do this. So from our side, from the council side, in fact, Priya was calling me whether I'm making it with lot of difficulty because I had to rush through this event and go to the swearing in and then come back to office and then come here, because we certainly wanted to ensure that all of you take back certain good learning these things. I have also had the pleasure to host earlier, I think our last 2-3 events we were associated, and I would ideally request Dr. Sudhakar to do 2 things for us. One, document the entire thing since morning, whatever we have done, and if possible, if there are no IP issues, we can co-create this knowledge. Some small bullet points of what everybody said. Forget about the people like us, but some of them who really came prepared and who are panelists. So we can have a small this thing. And also, second thing, we can, from the State Council, we can circulate this to all the good universities as a state document. And also, third thing, which I can also proudly say, is in the months to come, in the weeks to come, there will be reviews, there will be discussions, there will be a lot of people coming to Hyderabad. And as per the information available to me, at least in this week, I have hosted 3 delegations, one from Estonia, one from Germany, and one from America. 4 universities, Pace University, US. Yesterday there was a university, again one more university, George Mason University. We have signed an MOU, and in the next 10 days, I have 3 more delegations from Thailand, Singapore, and so on and so on. So when such an ecosystem is, they are aware of it. Believe me, whoever is coming to Hyderabad, no more the focus is on student recruitment, but good students who can bring value to those institutions. So similarly, we want to have a research consortium. Telangana research advisory body we have already constituted, and we want to encourage both faculty from colleges to do research, and we'll give a seed funding. We'll have this research awards every year, and we'll also have on January, I think I'll leave it to Sudhakar to announce 1 or 2 more things later on. Let's not do all at a time. But I'm sure half of this audience will be there, at least 3/4 of in January, for another very mega event we are doing in Hyderabad. That's more of a knowledge and networking event from an outstanding international scholar. We did one of them 3-4 years back along with ICFAI, but I think this time we'll do it in a large scale. And things like this keep us going. And somebody asked me, in fact, at my office, my colleagues were asking me, there's something very important and you're rushing. I said, things can wait, but certainly we can do multitasking. I think sometimes we should do that, and that's what I've been doing.
Sir,
Thank you so much.
Question.
Yeah.
Sorry for speaking out of turn, but it was being discussed sometime back in one of the panels. I think it was the last panel. And it's an observation that even we all endorse, is that in many engineering colleges, the core streams are going begging. There are no students willing to join in those streams like civil, mechanical, electrical, and things like that. We also have ICFAI Tech, and therefore there's a overwhelming demand for AI, ML, data science kind of courses, computer science kind of courses. Other than that, people are not interested. Sir, is it a good idea? I'm just thinking, having listened to you, I was just thinking, is it a good idea to have a generic BTech? For example, we don't have any branches called at the time of admission, only at the time of admission. For example, when you join MBA, it's a generic MBA. It's a generalist MBA. For our institute, we give generalist MBA. Based on the number of courses or electives that you take, you will sit in the interview and qualify yourself as majored in HR or something like that. But at the time of entry, you're all getting into MBA. Similarly, can we all get into just BTech? And later, based on the electives, because all the labs have to be in place. Your engineering has to be well-rounded. Your mechanical engineering labs will have to be staying put. Your electronics and electrical will have to stay. Civil engineering will have to stay. So that we understand everything. And probably when you are in final year or so, you can choose your specialization and move forward. Even otherwise also, whoever is studying any other stream like mechanical, what I studied, all my classmates are now in computer science. At their MS level or at their work level, they have gone into the world of computing only. So I think at the entry level, if we have to remove this confusion and problem, maybe we should get into generalist BTech program. I wanted to have sir's response.
I think wonderful suggestion. In fact, you will find in the next 1 year or so changes which will be completely unimaginable, because we have to take these steps. Number one, 95% of our students are preferring AI, computer science, so things like that, without really having a core engineering strength in neither core engineering nor any other of this thing. So there is a move to make it a generic MBA, generic engineering program like you said, but not so much as you said that everybody can go through it. But somewhere down the line, first year would be common. I'm not an engineering student. First year we'll try to, but we are also looking at the German model. We have had initial discussions, apprentice model. We'll have a gap year model where student can go away from the college, come back again after 2-3 years after doing a stint in in your startup thing. There's so many on the table. What it requires is strong will to do it, and strong commitment to do it, backed by the political support. So I am sure in the coming weeks and months, in fact, today morning AICT chairman was in Hyderabad. I could not meet him because of this summit, but apparently we are also talking about delinking AICT from many of the good institutions. In fact, this suggestion which AICT has improved in the annual process book is, we said Telangana would like to be not just conforming to AICT, beyond AICT. For example, if I have a good institution, I don't need an AICT. I should be setting standards. So there are certain very drastic and radical changes we have proposed, because I think the age of regulation, age of control, age of license Raj has gone. You have seen it in 1982 itself, when liberalization, 1991, right? LPG. In higher education, I think the best and fittest will survive. And student will be, the markets will, it will be the student will choose. So there are a lot of things which we will do. We are also inviting international players into Hyderabad. I can't reveal the details because they are still on the drawing board. And we will certainly look at empowering institutions and reducing the government intervention so that the institutions can grow further without having to spend much time. We don't have a choice many times, because every day, alternate day, I get a letter from AICT, UGC asking me to send details. But nowadays we are telling UGC and AICT, let's do it across the table. Let's have a perspective plan for the state and stick to it. We had prepared a perspective plan, and I must tell you, ours was the best. The Telangana state perspective plan was the best. So when we are the best in some of the things, I think we should also ask for a better treatment. Thank you very much. And thank you, Priya, and your team. And Munaz, right? Munaz, for wonderfully doing this. And thank you all for patiently sitting through. And I'm sure we'll see you shortly. And please have a database of these participants so that, you could also invite them for other events. Thank you so much, all of you. If I have missed some of you, please excuse me because, in this bright light, I am not able to see, but I can definitely find out those whom I know very closely. And I think on behalf of the government, I would like to thank the sponsors and be assured we would always be proactive and try to work with all of you. Thank you very much.
Sir, one last note from a leader is chosen and we sit in a conversation. So it's 20 minutes of opening talk by the leader on a given topic, whatever topic the leader wishes to speak about, and 40 to 60 minutes of Q&A. So it's largely interactive, and based on that, we have authored a book which was presented to the dignitaries in the morning. That is the lessons from Game Changers, and there are other subsequent books also in the works. In the sense, another 2 books are about to be released. So we have completed so far 130 such leadership conversations. I invite all of you to participate. If you go on LinkedIn, you will see, if you just type Sudhakar Rao, you can see the invite there. And I request you and your students and faculty members, all of us are leaders unto ourselves. In our own respective spheres, we are leaders. Depending on the choice, depending on the topic, you can choose to join. Okay. But at least know that there is something happening. It is welcome all kind of an event. There's no cost involved. We don't pay any leader. We don't ask any money from the attendees. It's a knowledge sharing session. We are going to do tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. 130th leadership conversation. I invite all of you. Watch out for it. It's called Wise Views Leadership Conversations. But if you go on LinkedIn, you will get the invite. And once you join, my backend team will make sure that you don't leave. They will keep on sending invites to you. Okay. So please watch out and join. Thank you.